Hello, welcome to the Capitol Report on Entity Television. I'm Steve Lance. Cocaine in the White House amid changes in reported locations and the possibilities of an inconclusive investigation. The House Oversight Committee now investigating details surrounding that cocaine that was found in the White House. NTD's Melina Wisecup has more updates for us.
The incident of cocaine being found at the White House has garnered a lot of attention, and understandably so, because this is a situation that's very out of the ordinary. And just from the quick response that we've seen from Republicans here in Congress, it suggests that they're not willing to let this drift out of the headlines anytime soon. The GOP-led Oversight Committee is now probing the details of the incident. The chairman of that committee, James Comer, called it a shameful moment in the White House's history, writing that in a letter to the Secret Service's director, requesting for her to come and give a staff-level briefing on the issue by July 14th. Another issue in the mix that's really raising questions is the location change. So it was originally believed that the cocaine was found in the White House library. Then that location changed to the West Wing lobby, which has a bit more foot traffic. It's a heavy foot traffic area. Then most recently, it's believed to have been found in the West Executive entrance, which is more secured. It's also where the Vice President's vehicle is usually parked, to give you an understanding of the security level in that area. And it's also near the Situation Room. Today, the National Security Advisor brushed off questions about whether or not there are national security implications. Take a look.
The Situation Room is not in use and has not been in use for months because it is currently under construction. I do not believe at present, as things stand here at the podium today, that we are facing some national security threat.
And unsurprisingly, former President Donald Trump took a stab at the Biden family, writing on Truth Social, "Does anyone really believe that the cocaine found is for the use of anyone other than Hunter and Joe Biden?" In response to this, one White House staffer had this to say.
Are you willing to say that that's not the case, that they don't belong to them?
I don't have a response to that because we have to be careful about the Hatch Act.
And when pressed further today about whether this drug might have belonged to a Biden family member, the White House press secretary called the reporter's question irresponsible.
They were not here. They were at Camp David. They were not here Friday. They were not here Saturday. They were not here Sunday. They were not even here Monday. They came back on Tuesday. So to ask that question is actually incredibly irresponsible.
So, Melina, we know there have been updates about the timeline of the Secret Service's investigation. What's the new timeline we're looking at?
It was initially expected that this investigation would be concluded in the few weeks ahead. However, that timeline has recently shrunk and is expected now to finish by next Monday.
Melina Wisecup reporting. A move expected to impact millions of Americans. President Biden today announcing plans to crack down on non-Obamacare insurance options. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more from the White House.
President Biden today announced a new plan to limit short-term health insurance. He calls such plans junk insurance, saying they don't provide as much coverage as does Obamacare.
They dig into your medical records, discover you had asthma as a kid, claim you had a heart attack as a pre-existing condition, and then refuse to pay. That's a scam. It has to end.
Millions of Americans are enrolled in short-term health insurance. Such plans are not subject to Obamacare rules that would require how much it should cover or how it should be priced. The Trump administration in 2018 expanded it, saying that it's a more affordable option to Obamacare. But President Biden now says that he wants to roll it back and cutting its maximum time limit.
Short-term plans would have to be short-term. That means 4 months or less, not 3 years.
The Biden administration is billing today's action as part of its Bidenomics agenda to lower costs for Americans. But Republicans fire back. In a statement today, the House Ways and Means Committee says Biden's plan would severely restrict access to affordable coverage options, adding that the Biden administration's, quote, one-size-fits-all approach to health care has only driven up insurance premiums for millions of Americans. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Millions of people reportedly signed up for Mark Zuckerberg's new app, Threads, in less than a week. But just days into the launch, it appears that the platform is already censoring certain accounts. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the latest.
Mark Zuckerberg's Meta launched a new app this week, Threads. It's seen as a competitor to Twitter, as the two apps are very similar. On Friday, Zuckerberg announced that there have been 70 million signups on Threads as of this morning. However, similar to other apps operated by Meta, such as Instagram and Facebook, Threads is facing allegations of censorship. On Thursday, Donald Trump Jr. took to Twitter, saying Threads users who tried to follow him received this notification asking, "Are you sure you want to follow Donald Trump Jr.? This account has repeatedly posted false information." Andy Stone, a communications manager for Meta, responded saying, "This was an error and shouldn't have happened. It's been fixed." To learn about this and more, I spoke with Chris Alexander. He's a former tech expert with the Department of Defense and now works with the Pioneer Development Group, which focuses on Web3 technology. Are you at all worried that Threads might suppress free speech?
I'm extremely worried. The fact is, this is Facebook who censored the word liberty at the Biden administration's request, we're now learning, on that 4th of July court ruling.
He added that privacy is always a concern, as all companies such as Twitter, Instagram, and others have similar goals.
To learn everything it can about you so that advertisers, politicians, government officials can tell you what to buy, how to think, what to vote, how to vote.
Elon Musk reportedly sent a letter to Meta threatening to sue the company because it allegedly used former Twitter employees to build the new app. The communications director at Meta responded saying, "No one on the Threads engineering team is a former Twitter employee. That's just not a thing." Jeff Bermont is the founder of Tusk, which brands itself as a free speech internet browser. He tells me Musk might not have the grounds to sue.
He may feel it's unfair, but it's his competition, and if he does a better job of running Twitter, he'll ultimately win.
Musk didn't make clear yet if or when he'd sue. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Another high-ranking U.S. official setting foot in communist China. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen kicking off a trip to Beijing to meet with the nation's top leadership. What's on the agenda and what's next for U.S.-China relations? NTD's Sam Wang brings us the latest.
On Friday, Treasury Secretary Yellen sat down with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, expressing hopes of bolstering ties with the world's second-largest economy. Let's take a listen.
And it's my hope that this visit can spur more regular channels of communication.
She added that complete economic decoupling isn't on Washington's agenda. Instead, the U.S. is looking to maintain rule-based competition with China, not a winner-take-all approach. Though talks of reconciliation are still in the air, Yellen said that the U.S. and its ally will continue to hit back at what she called China's unfair economic practices. China's premier released a statement calling on the U.S. to meet China halfway. Relations between Washington and Beijing have soured in recent years. The two nations tussle on a wide range of disputes, such as Russia's war in Ukraine, Taiwan, and China's assertive actions in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. is also concerned about human rights abuses in China and efforts by Beijing to gather intelligence and steal intellectual property. Last October, the U.S. imposed a series of export controls aimed at blocking China from using Western technology to make microchips. Beijing's Commerce Ministry, on the same token, announced a similar measure just earlier this week, restricting exports of two key materials used in semiconductor manufacturing. Aside from the chip war, Beijing recently raided several foreign consulting firms under its updated counter-espionage law. This sounded the alarm for U.S. businesses and prompted the U.S. to warn Americans that China could arrest foreigners with no explanations for doing things like researching sensitive topics. Economic ties between the U.S. and China remain deeply linked. As of last year, the two-way trade hit a staggering record of over $690 billion, and the CCP regime is also among the top two investors in U.S. debt. Yellen is the second high-ranking U.S. official visiting China this year, following Secretary of State Antony Blinken. The Treasury Secretary is slated to talk with the Chinese Vice Premier, her direct counterpart, on Saturday. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Sam Wang, NTD News.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.